Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of SketchyGOichie. I am your humble host, Roger Andrews, and I'd like to invite you to go over to Instagram and Facebook at SketchyGOichie, and you can leave comments, leave posts, and we can interact there. Definitely leave me some suggestions on what you'd like to see me render on some of these videos, particularly if you have favorite characters or whatever you like. I'd love to take on requests and incorporate that into the videos. And certainly I can definitely shout you out when I do. But don't go anywhere. I have a video lined up for you. Enjoy. I am going to do, let's see, I'm going to do a sketch of Erin Heartbreak on the Instagram, Erin Heartbreak on YouTube. Actually, more specifically, I'm going to do a little sketch of her dog. We met just about 2 weeks ago. We had lunch, and we were kind of discussing YouTube and basically our channels, and she has got a tremendous YouTube following, and her subject matter is super relevant, and her personality really comes through, and she's incredibly generous and thoughtful about sharing ideas on how to best produce these videos. So big shout out to Erin, and check out her YouTube channel and certainly subscribe. So I thought as just a little gesture, she loves her dog, and so it's less about drawing Erin and more about drawing her dog. And I thought it'd be fun to kind of do a cute cartoon version of maybe her with a dog. I don't know. We're going to figure that out. All right. So as you can see, we are on the iPad. It's the iPad Pro. It is I think it's the 12.9-inch screen. This is actually the first generation iPad, so you'll forgive me. I'm a little behind the times. I will eventually upgrade and get a new one. But I like it. It works. It does what I need. And so it's cool. So off and running. I've mentioned it in several of my previous videos. The app I use is Procreate, which is this guy right here. Let me take you to the basics main screen. This is obviously your sort of your load screen, your gallery. All right. And I have a series of YouTube videos that I've created off of images that I've done in Procreate. As you can see, they're actually kind of growing. There's some that are kind of, I've started the sketch phase and haven't quite taken to the color phase yet. Not that everything I draw has to be in color. I just think it's maybe a little more interesting, and it's an interesting challenge for me to render these in color and do them quick enough so that they're not super boring long form videos for you. But all right, so let's get into this Erin thing. So I've already started doing a little sketch of her video content, which obviously when you go over and subscribe, you will see that it's kind of related to product, handbags and things of that nature. And she's, from what I gathered from the videos I saw, it's kind of like a sort of like a review. It's kind of a helpful thing if you're a consumer. And so I thought I would have her here, as you can see. Hopefully you can see it well. Let me zoom in a touch. Again, in Procreate, if you want to navigate, it's 2 fingers on the screen, and just you can shift and you can rotate. All right. You can zoom all the way down, zoom all the way in. Okay. So I started with super rough. Sorry, not luff. Maybe I saw the love coming off of her, for her pooch. But love, you gotta love this art, and you gotta I don't even know where I was going. Anyways, you got to have the ability to loosely sketch kind of the rough form first, kind of the thumbnail stage. And I like to do several thumbnails and kind of go until I've, I feel like I've not exhausted. I feel like there's probably unlimited pool of creative energy, but until I've kind of worked out some kinks and decided on which angle works best or all that good stuff. So this is kind of one on her sitting on, well, hopefully you can see what it is, but it's kind of her and her dog kind of sitting on a pile of consumer products, some handbags, and some jewelry, and a bunch of other things. This is kind of a loose representation of it. Obviously, I put some more detail in it. So I don't know if I'm super happy with this one. So because it's on its own layer, as you can see here, we have 2 layers. All right, we have our layer 1, which has the art and the background layer. Because it is on its own layer, I can very easily create a new one, layer 2, and select my brush, which I generally, when I'm doing sketchings, I use the ink bleed brush, kind of for the underdrawing. I don't know why, it's just a bit looser. I can bring the size of the brush up, and I can lower the opacity of the ink that will flow on the screen. So let me give you an example. That's a brush about midway up the slider. 2-finger tap to get rid of that. Put it a bit lower down the slider. See, finer line. Right? Got it? And obviously opacity, 2-finger tap to get rid of. Opacity, if I slide that down, bring this brush up a bit, way up. It's just a bit. We can go way down. Okay, you have to really work and go all the way to the top. Look how dark that is. And I'm barely pressing down. The pressure on the screen is very, very low. Okay, so I usually, like when I'm sketching, I bring it down just a little bit, bring the sketch just below center, because I want to be able to create fine lines and thick lines equally as well, or easily. And if I have it too high, it's like working with a large piece of charcoal versus working with a pencil tip. The closer to the bottom you get is the tighter basically the tighter the circle you're working with. See, as opposed to this. Okay, so just below center, a little closer to the top on that. Double finger tap to get rid of it. All right, so you saw sketch number 1. Oftentimes, if I'm working with something that I'm unfamiliar with, or a specific thing, I will bring in photos just kind of as reference. So in order to do so, all you would have to do is go to this guy here, this little wrench icon, click on add. You can insert a photo if you already have it in your library, or insert a file. For me, I have several different sources. I have Dropbox and obviously Google, iCloud Drive, Google Drive. If you go to my Google Drive, within there's a Roger folder. And within Roger folder, there's Erin dog photos for sketch. So if we go in there, we have several photos that Erin shot over to me, texted over to me, just to kind of use as reference of her and her dog more specifically. So I'll pick one of these guys and I'll import it. All right. So there we go. So there's so if you use this icon here, this guy, this little arrow, it kind of allows you, if you use 2 fingers, it allows you to kind of position things. It's basically, I don't know what I call it like a direct selection tool, because it reminds me of the direct selection tool in Adobe Illustrator, but it's probably a move tool maybe. I don't know. I don't fact check. You guys know that. So it's a cute shot of her and her dog. I'm gonna put that guy over here for now. And to see how it's still selected, click on there. It'll release it from being selected. Next, back up to this guy, insert a file. I will pick this one. I'm not sure why the images aren't showing. Alright, so there's another, actually that's an even better one. Get to see the poosh. There. There's his cute face. And, again, click on here. And I'll bring a third one in, just for giggles. Insert file. I'll bring this one in. This guy. So we're importing that. Oh, it's a cool little side view. The dog. And I will just position that there. And you know what? Why not? We'll do a 4th. How about that? There's 5 in there. I could probably bring in all 5 to be honest with you. I don't know why I'm concerned about that space. All right, that's cute. All right, so we are gonna 2-finger, just rotate it. I'm not sure why they're coming in at an angle like that. Look at me, I'm like, it's like I'm trying to arrange a magazine page. It really doesn't matter where these are positioned. Oh, by the way, when you're moving things around, there's a whole row of options along the bottom here. So I'll give you an example. I'll 2-finger tap that back to its original place. Go down here, there's one called magnetic. Magnetic will see how it gives you a guideline. I don't know how well that's coming out in the camera. So if you want to move things on a diagonal, on a perfect diagonal, it'll kind of give you a guideline. Or if you want to move things on a perfect vertical, like that. I'm sorry, a perfect horizontal or a perfect vertical. It'll give you a guideline, but for the horizontal it's great. So if I want to tilt it, rotate it, see how it rotated it perfectly because I used magnetic. It sort of constrains, and see how it's constraining it as I zoom out, or should I say expand. See? That's a great little tip. I don't know how many people use that. I'm sure everyone who uses the app uses that. I'd be willing to bet. So anyway, so this is me. I don't know why I'm like meticulously trying to make the spaces in between these somewhat match. Doesn't really matter. And I may throw that final one in there just to be a completist. So we'll go over there, insert file, we'll insert that last one. Okay. Oh, Doggie and Mom, I guess. I know a lot of people like to call their dogs their children. But so that's just them, I guess, hanging out on the deck. It's good, actually. It's good for the body of the dog. So, Erin, if you're watching this, I'm going to crop you out. I think because I want to get the dog, and I'm going to rotate it. Again, there are options down the bottom. If this is still selected, you can very easily flip it horizontal. See how easily? So now it just flopped the point of view. And you know what I may do? I may leave this one because I can see the dog's body really well here. I'm going to leave this one. By the way, I want you to notice this as well. It's on its own layer. So, and if you want to join these guys, you just select one, all right, and just pull it and release. So let me show you that motion again. Select one, and the one underneath it, or any of these, just pull and release. Gently, just slide your finger off to the right and release. And you notice how they sort of get all selected, and then you can form a group. And now they're all together in a group. So now if I want to move them all, very easily I can move the whole gang all together, and I can reduce them if I want to, which I do want to, because I want to be able to bring that other one in. All right. So this is this guy. All right, make sure I have that one selected. Again, back to our trusty, we'll call it the move tool. And there's our reference for this particular one, and I'll just join them all together. And if you pinch the layers together, it'll all flatten into one layer that we can move around. All right, so there's our reference. There's the dog, and there's her. So what's cool about this is I can kind of see, like, basically, you know, how her hair is. I'm gonna do a really cartoony version. Same thing for the dog, but it's cool to kind of, you know, I need to see what kind of, you know, I'm not sure what kind of breed he is. It looks like a pit bull. Maybe he's a mix, but I probably should ask. Anyway, so this is just for fun. So it doesn't, I don't know if it, well, obviously it matters what dog it is because I want to get it accurate, but I think he looks pit bullish, so that's what I'm going to do. Okay. Or she. Actually, I don't know. You hear she. Could be a she. All right. So here we go. Now that I got my reference, I'm just trying to give it an eyeball. All right. I'm going to do just some loose dog sketches, and then I'm going to close out this video. Okay, so doggy styles, no pun intended. Open a new layer, select your brush, get your ink bleed. I looked at some reference. All right, so I'm going to start with just get a feel for the dog. I'm going to figure out what style I want to render he or she in. I'm going to text her after this and ask. So I have. All right, I want to do sort of a cute version, really cartoony version of her doggy. And like anything you will render, it's just a series of shapes. For those who are kind of learn to draw, and you see these videos and you see myself or other artists, and we just kind of throwing a bunch of lines on a page and all of a sudden something emerges. The reality is it's not that magical. It really is a collection of basic shapes, anything you render. So if you stop and really look at this thing, I mean, it's just this kind of rounded square. These ears are sort of, again, another sort of rounded rectangular shapes. The corners, where there would ordinarily be corners, we just rounded them. That's what creates that sort of natural, more organic look to it. Same thing with the body. This is some sort of pear shape that represents the body. These little front paws are just almost half of ovals. Same thing with the back legs. They're just shapes. That's really all it is. And once you get accustomed to just rendering shapes, same things with these eyes. The distance between, can be determined. Obviously, the lower everything is on the face. Oh, by the way, this is probably more a traditional selection tool. This guy here, it's similar to what in Photoshop what would be called that lasso tool, and you can kind of draw. You can use your pen to draw shape and close the loop, close that with the starting point, bring everything back to the starting point, and now you can select it. See? Now you can select it, and if you take off magnetics, you can reduce or you can distort. But actually, it kind of looks tough now all of a sudden, the way I did the eyes. But the lower you position the features on a cartoony face, it instantaneously makes it younger and cuter. So just bear that in mind. And the wider you set the eyes, and the smaller you make the nose and mouth and muzzle of the dog on the face, the more puppy-like it looks. So just bear that in mind as you render this. But again, so just basic shapes. This is the basic of the pooch. I mean, I could, go in and really sort of refine this at this point, but I want to do loose sketches right now. I just want to kind of be free. So I'm going to take this guy and I'm going to move him over here. All right, so that's just start a puppy or start a dog. All right. You can always make new layers depending on how you set up this file. You can use, I usually use about 300 dpi. The size of this is 8.5 inches by 11 inches. That's the canvas size at 300 dpi. So there's a limited amount of layers that happen under those restrictions, or should I say that file size. There's a limited amount of layers, but it's a lot. It's probably, at 8.5 by 11 with 300 dpi, that's probably like 30 layers I can work with. So don't be afraid, guys, to do layers for new pieces of art and sketches. You can always pinch the layers together to join them, and that's exactly what I'm going to do here. So second sketch, let's do like maybe a bit more of a 3/4 view and maybe a slightly different style. So again, basic shapes. You start with that, and then you add volume, particularly with 3/4 views. So we'll do our 3/4 view. This one's actually a little more of a profile, meaning a little more of a side view. But again, basic shapes. Okay. And in time, to add volume, it's really just so by adding volume, I mean, so say you have a cylinder, meaning like a cup, essentially. All right. Essentially, that was what, 4 or 5 lines, but you get the impression that it has volume. Right? If I added a shadow here, you'd really get the impression it had volume. Right? All it is, and to kind of represent volume, is essentially you want to, so I'll give you that example again. We have a oval there. An oval is just an oval. It's an ellipse, nothing to it, right? A couple of straight lines, nothing to it. Your oval at the bottom to complete it, nothing to it, right? But what gives something volume is those, I don't know if you noticed, I did these little lines that kind of represent a shadow, or should I represent, it's like it represents where light is coming in. And then if light is there, is present, generally the object will cast a shadow. And now all of a sudden this shape has volume. There are little tricks that are done to create volume. Oftentimes for me, it's just adding that sort of a hint of an edge or hint of volume. By that I mean a shape actually has density. It's an illusion that you can create. And by adding that shadow, I give you the impression that it has volume. Okay, so hopefully all of that makes sense. But I digress. All right, so back to the pooch. So I'm adding volume. This little shape here gives you the impression that his head has got some volume. It's not just a shape. It's got some volume. Okay. So back to all right. So I indicate that generally for me, I know a lot of people prefer to go to the eyes. I do like to do that as well, but I also like to kind of indicate the center part, the nose, and before I get into the eyes. Notice I'm not really adding a lot of expression yet at this stage. I'm literally just getting a feel for what I want to render on this. All right, so that puppy's on his own layer, so I can shift and move him around because I thought he was leaning. He's leaning down a little bit. I can also distort it. Once you've made a selection, you create this box, and if you pinch and hold these corners, you can distort the shape in any direction. Pinch and hold the corner. That's a good little trick, by the way. Sometimes I'll sketch something and it feels a little off, and I'll be like, I wish I'd moved that certain section to the left or to the right. And this is how you do it. Okay, so that's about right for sketch number 2. Okay, again, just create a new layer. There's nothing stopping you, right? Especially not in Procreate. I'm gonna do, let's see, maybe we'll do one that's we'll go this way. You notice how, again, a couple of just basic shapes. Yeah. Your tail. Maybe we'll have him looking up. This is another one in your basic shapes. There are when you're rendering. All right, let me indicate his ears so you get a little better sense of what I'm trying to pull off here. All right, so tilting of the angle of things is really helpful in creating a more dynamic looking piece of art. By dynamic, I mean, here's what I'm trying to say. I can just draw this shape, whatever this is. Maybe it's a little whatever. It's a little character, right? And that's okay, and it'll do, right? Or I could take this same exact thing, right, and tilt the camera angle, give it a little more drama, and I could go like this. Right? I don't know if that's any better or worse. There's my selection tool. Then this guy here. I don't know that this is that much better than this guy here because it's pretty benign shape. But what it is more interesting. The fact that I've tilted the camera so you're looking up at him, or her, whatever that little shape is, it makes it more interesting and more dynamic. And that's what I'm attempting to do here. Okay? Another way to look at it is, what if I took this shape again by giving it volume, and now we're looking down at it. Okay. You know, I don't know that this is that much. This one here is that much better than this, is that much better than this, but it's definitely more interesting when the camera's looking down at it. And I'd highly recommend, if you're practicing and you're sketching and doing all this stuff, why not tilt the camera angle and play around with it. Again, it's all basic shapes. It's all just having an understanding of how things look at different angles. And obviously that takes a ton of practice, but you get used to it. Trust me. All right, so, you know, rather than clicking, I'll just select this whole little section of new stuff. And 3 fingers. Ha, I'm glad I did that. 3 fingers. 3 fingers, gently brush downward, and you get this box here, which allows you to cut, paste, copy, and all that. There's a bunch of little selections in there. I just want to cut it. I want it gone. Okay? So, let me make sure I'm back on 6. That's this guy. All right, so this guy. So, if I'm tilting the camera angle up, obviously it's going to move the features. Now you're underneath it. Just imagine. You know what's a good thing to do? Get a doll or something that has facial features on it, and look at it from different angles. I know they have a lot of artist tools where you can get kind of simplified versions of the human form, and those things are great to kind of pose and do sketches off of. It's sort of like it's, you know, a lot of artists can use that as a guide. Or I know they sell like heads too, and you can, you know, or skull shapes, and you can take that and tilt that at different angles. You can even light it and take photographs of it and then do render overs. But whereas we're doing just cartoons, just tilting the angle, it's just a matter of taking that shape, and if the eye line is here, right, taking it and moving it upward so that the eye line is now up here. So now we're looking up at it, okay? And that's what we're doing with the puppy here, with the doggy here. So we're just moving the eyes up further on the face, you know, and in doing so, we're changing the muzzle. You know, we'll do his ear up. We'll do his ear up. Whatever. I think you're getting the gist, right? So that's another sketch. I'll take this one and we'll move it over here. All right, new layer. I'm only gonna do like 5, and we'll call it quits, and then we'll come back in another session. Maybe, you know, we'll really vary the angle. All right, so let's go a little more top view. Again, it's just a matter of finding the basic shapes. All right, and that little center line kind of helps to kind of figure out where the features are going to be positioned. Little paws over here. Probably wouldn't even see that other paw. Just a little tail. There's a little tongue hanging out. Yeah, that's one. I noticed they're getting darker. They're getting a little heavy-handed now. Maybe because I'm starting to warm up, starting to loosen up just a little bit, not so much yet. So, you know, we'll do, you notice too, I'll kind of start with that basic shape, shape and body. Proportions, if you notice, are, you know, because it's cartoony, it's head heavy, meaning it's much larger head. Give some dramatic ears. You know, maybe I'll change the shape of the dog head, make it a bit wider. Maybe the nose a bit smaller. In fact, his whole little muzzle feature things will go a bit smaller. Those little teeth in there. But we'll just widen it out, give him a slightly different stance. Maybe we'll give him a little stumpier little legs. Actually, let's refer to the reference. Let's go back to our reference page. So bring that in. You can, another little trick. I'm glad I did this. If you hold down, essentially hold down, and you can drag. Don't release. Just keep your pressure, gentle pressure on the gentle pressure. That sounds strange. Just keep the finger down on the layer and drag it up to the top. And now you'll notice that layer is on top of the art. You can see, so I can see this is some of the detailing I would add in when I start to refine the sketch. I'd certainly, I could probably make his nose bigger and add that jowly stuff that's happening on this breed of dog. That's something I can start introducing into. I can even introduce into these sketches. So for example, we're still on this layer. That's the most recent layer. This is how we know. Just click on and off of it. That's the visibility button. Okay. So we don't really have that jowl stuff. So I can use the eraser tool up top, pen tool, smudge, eraser, layer. Just erase this off. Okay. I'm gonna give him a much bigger nose, and then we'll see what that looks like. Much bigger dog nose. Let's see how that changes it. Give him the jowly thing happening. It definitely changed. It makes him look a little funkier, but probably a little more representative of that breed of dog. Notice I'm not really monkeying around with the eyes too much yet. Obviously, there's a ton of expression that comes through the eyes, and I like to save. Well, sometimes I'll indicate it in the super loose sketches that I'm doing now, but I like to save a lot of that expression and stuff when I get into refining these, which we are not doing yet. And all right, so there's that one. I suppose I could go in back on the earlier ones. That's the original sketch. So number 2, number 3. All right, go to number 4, and go back in. And because he's so super loose, it's really easy. Again, I can put his little jowls. Same thing with this guy here. Let me make sure I'm on that proper layer. That's this one, number 5. And again, let's put the jowls in. This big old tongue, dripping tongue. Really does change the look, just that little subtle thing, and that often is the case, believe it or not. The little subtle things that change the look of it. All right. Well, I said I was gonna do 5, so I'm gonna stick with 5. So we're gonna go to number 8, which is that one. Move that guy over there because I have this crazy thing where I have to in fact, I'm gonna move him to the center because I like that pose the best. That's probably the one I would go with. We're gonna find number 5, which, by the way, you know what I'm gonna do? Here's another great thing. I showed you the pinching of the art before. So from 7 to 2, I'm pinching them. All right, those guys are all on their own layer. I'm gonna move this guy in the center. I'm gonna move him over here, and I'm gonna flip horizontal. Again, I don't know if it's an OCD thing, but I like even when I'm sketching, I like things to face in towards the center of the page if they're on the left-hand side. I know it doesn't matter at all for these little sketches. It really does not. Please, so don't follow my lead on that. For some reason, I like to have, oftentimes, not always, but oftentimes I'll have the stuff the items that are sketched on the right side of the page facing towards the center of the page. Does not matter. I can't stress that enough. Does not matter. It's just my own personal thing. So please don't feel obligated to do that. These are supposed to be just loose sketches, but I figured because I'm presenting them to someone, maybe because so much of the sketch work I do nowadays is based on that, is me presenting stuff to other people. That's probably why I feel this sort of well, that really changed him. Me flopping him made him look really kind of funky, but that's okay. And then I'll bring in that 8th one, or frame number 8, and make sure I have it selected. He's the one I like the best, so I'm gonna move him, make him large. So, all right, so that's the loose sketches. I'm gonna pinch these together, and I'll move it just right there. All right, so just starter point, loose sketches of this dog. Maybe I'll do some more, maybe I won't, but nah, I probably will. Probably do some more. But this is I just wanted to give you a feel for the app Procreate that I mentioned so often in these videos, and I also wanted to give you kind of the rough insider point of view on how I sketch. So forgive any kind of crazy flubs and things along the way. I'm learning this this whole YouTube thing along with you guys, so bear with me while I try to get this all down. All right, so if you have any questions or comments, please feel free to leave them on the old SketchyGOichie channel. I have, you know what I'm thinking about doing? I printed up a bunch of these stickers. They came out super cool. Any new subscribers, and I mean any new subscribers. Matter of fact, any existing subscribers, reach out to me via Instagram. You can direct message me on Instagram at SketchyGOichie. You can also, I have a Facebook group. Also, guess what it's called? Yep, you guessed it. Matter of fact, I'm not even going to say it. So I have a Facebook group about something to do with this channel. Go there and leave posts. Interact with that group, and who knows, you might get yourself a free sticker. And they are super cool. They came out cool. This is the prototype. And this is the next one. It's got this cool little white outline now, and it looks great when it gets adhered to objects. So please go to Instagram, go to Facebook, and definitely subscribe to this channel. Tell your friends to subscribe to this channel, and I'm hoping that people get a lot out of this. The more the merrier, as I see it. All right, so that's the video. See you around. As always, SketchyGOichie. Live your moment. Happy sketching, y'all. Peace.